Oh, okay. the
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Program Director. Um, Let me stand here by the protocols already established by previous presenters and speakers. My name is Pea Mushelenga, but not the minister. Uh, I'm a National Development Advisor under the Regional Planning, National Planning Commission. And today I'm wearing big shoes, very, very big. Because our executive director was supposed to be here. And I think the scriptures read in the morning are now speaking to me to say, who am I? But anyways, we are here. And I will proceed as delegated. So I would also like to, from the onset, to give thanks to Meme Susan from OPM. I think she made my work very easy by touching on the PMS, which is somehow linked to what I'm going to talk about. So that is the content of my presentation, where I'll look at the just where we stand in terms of mandate. That is the National Planning Commission and the regional councils, because you can't separate the two. And then I'll briefly just look at the development planning in perspective from a theoretical perspective, and then also zoom into the regional development planning and the linkage between the two with strategic planning. And thereafter, I will then look at the prospects for improved regional and strategic planning. And not so exhaustive, I will look at the challenges to regional development planning and a few recommendations in terms of the effective regional development planning. In terms of the mandate, the National Planning Commission is mandated under the Act number 2 of 2013 to, amongst other, spearhead the identification of development priorities, formulate national development plans, of course in consultation with the regional councils, develop M&E mechanism for effective implementation of NDPs, evaluate the effectiveness of government socio-economic policies, and to coordinate the formulation of the said policies, mobilize, manage, and coordinate international development cooperation under the DPC Directorate. And then the last one is speaking to our high office, the Director General's office, which is required to compile and report on the Commission's activity during the presiding year for approval by the Commission. But in this case, we don't have a Commission, so the DG report directly to Cabinet. So the Regional Council, on the other end, as mandated by their Act 22 of 1992, they are there to undertake, with due regard to the powers, the function of NPC. So we work in conjunction with the regional councils, where they are mandated to plan for the inhabitant within their regions. And in terms of the synergy between the two, if you look at the National Planning Commission, when we formulate the NDPs, we don't do this in silos. We actually consult with the regional councils. As you have seen the past month, we have been in the regions to consult on the development of NDP 6. So that is where the synergy actually is in terms of the two acts that mandates the organizations. So to look at the development planning in perspective, which is actually just a multidisciplinary process that embraces the macro, micro, and the special or regional dimensions. This is just to ensure that we actually solve the anticipated problems. So development planning in perspective, the purpose is to identify and prioritize national goals, mobilize and manage national, both public and private international resources, mobilize public support for national goals, and provide effective stakeholder coordination to ensure that the goals are set and achieved. So that is the broader perspective of development planning. And if we are to move on to the regional development planning, if you narrow it down, that is aimed at equitable distribution of resources among the area and the group of people within that region. And regional planning, by nature, it's participatory. So whereby we are using the bottom-up approach. And that is the approach that also have been taken by National Planning Commission when we started the consultation of our NDP 6. So we started at the constituency level and then did a regional consultation after we were done with all the constituencies within a given region. So in nature, the regions, they offer a framework within which development in terms of projects of national significance or those that are based on a local initiative aspiration can be sustainably integrated for mutual benefit. Moving on, the region also emerged as a physical, economic, and social institution or environment in which development process can react upon each other productively. And now, to bring it now to today's focal discussion, which is decentralization, of course, which is part of planning, because planning doesn't stop. The decentralization manual now prescribe for the preparation of regional development plans. So to provide also the regional profiles in terms of the potential challenges and priorities. So, but then since NDP 2, the regional development plans were never developed. So only now that we have identified that in our planning session with the regional council last year in Ochivarongo, there was a resolution taken because we introduced a working paper on regional development plans, and it was actually agreed that we should bring back the regional development plans. And I also went through the resolution from the Decentralization Forum of last year, and it's appearing as one of the resolutions that was taken. So what is currently happening is that when we're doing consultation in the regions, we're also sensitizing the regional councils, such that we develop the regional development plans parallel to the NDP6. At the same time, we also took cognition of that most of the regional profiles are outdated. And of course, we could not do much given the fact that the national census was pending. So now that we have the census preliminary results, we are actually going to undertake, in consultation with the regions, the updating of the profiles and also the development of the regional development plans. Yeah, so now moving on, there is, at times you find that someone will ask, why would you now do strategic planning when you have a regional development plan? Well, then why do you need a strategic plan? But so that's why I felt it important to bring it in here. And OPM was talking specifically on strategic planning. So strategic planning at an institutional level, that's where you just absorb the strategic activities or outputs at the institutional level. But when you look at the regional development plan, that one take cognition of the whole region, the priorities within the region. So I will not really go through the whole reading, because that is just a distinction of what is it that we are talking of when we are talking of the strategic planning, and then also regional development plans or regional development planning. Because one of the key distinction is that the strategy is more of a management tool. For instance, the PMS that was alluded to earlier, it's a management tool. The total quality management is one of also the management tool. And also when you look at the strategic plan, the institutional strategic plan, that's where you find that there are trade-offs. You tend to trade off some of the priority. And in essence, the strategy is choosing what not to do and not what to do in most cases. And so having said that, rather than taking all, a strategy looks at the core competency, the critical resources, and the key success factors of that institution. Just to wrap up this slide, so providing sufficient stretch on the organizational aspiration to enable to develop and use its scarce resources more efficiently, creatively, and profitably for those that are profit-driven entities, and also effectively for those that are providing services to the citizens. So when we do our strategic plannings, so we look at what is it that we want to, in terms of our mission, we want to affirm our mission or founding purpose. We want to articulate our vision and define our agenda, so that then we can craft the best course of actions in order to fulfill our missions and realize our vision. So during the annual planning sessions, for those that have not done their annual plans, of course they are late, I think. So the organization must ask itself some satisfactory answers or to get to these questions. To say, with this strategy, are we going to fulfill our mission? Are we going to realize our vision? Is it our strategic agenda aligned to the national vision? And have we chosen the best route to mission and vision? So, yeah. Madam Susan also indicated that now given that that OPM are going to give a directive in terms of the development of strategic plans. So while that is coming, maybe it's just for us to reflect on the existing strategic plans, to say for the past 5 years or so, perhaps what we have crafted in terms of the mission vision or the actions that we placed in the strategic plans, maybe it's the reason why we are failing. It's not really that we don't know how to do the work, but then perhaps it's just the mission, the way that we are going, perhaps is the one that is misleading. So in prospect, for regional and strategic planning, we are saying that from the national level, our NDPs have to be crafted in a way that they clearly define our national development goals, objectives, and the expected output per thematic area. So when we did our review, there were some challenges identified, particularly on the measurability of outputs. And I'm sure that this does not only apply to these NDPs. It could be that in also crafting our PAs in annual plans, sometimes you will find that the KPIs are not really talking to what you want to measure in terms of the output. So for us to realize that we are actually ready to attain our development goals, objectives, and expected output, they should also be measurable. And the regional development plans, in this case now, it's going to articulate the development strategy of each region, while the strategic plan will ensure that the priorities to be established through consensus within the region and agreed with appropriate national institutions. So therefore, the strategic plans of the OMAs and the regional councils need input from each other, because to avoid the silo planning and disparities, because at the end of the day, these are two implementers of priorities within a given, serving the same people, but then hence the strategic plans also need to talk to each other. So just to highlight on the challenges to regional development planning in perspective, for some of the projects and programs to be implemented, they need to be, the offices, ministries, and agencies needs to be within the people. Now, because of this slow pace of decentralization due to inadequate political will and also insufficient funds, if one can put it that way, so they are following, these are some of the following symptoms. The existence of multi-sector and multi-stakeholder environment involving in a wide range of government entity with weaker horizontal and vertical cooperation. This speaks now to the consultation at the regional and the local level. So this point is basically just saying that in our planning, insofar as we are planning, there seems to be an existence of weaker cooperation at all levels, from the national to regional to local level. And there is a call now just for us perhaps to strengthen cooperation and coordination between various bodies. In effective community participation, this speaks to the planning structures in the regions. Some RDCCs are dormant, some are functioning. The CDCs, some perhaps are discouraged. And that's why in yellow there I put to say, perhaps we can look at the allowances for those people to be encouraged to attend the CDCs, and also the issue of skills, just to understand development in perspective. And the last one is just on the weak collaboration between officers, ministries, NPC, the regional council, on the preparation of strategic plans. So there is inconsistency somewhere there. If you take about 14 strategic plans and go through, you might find some disparities there, here and there. So what are we then recommending? We are saying that we need to ensure that the regional planning structures in the regions are operational and adequately equipped. There should be clear definition of functions, roles, and working relations between the planning and the administrative regional stakeholders at all different levels. Regional planning and profiling, which is key. Identification of development centers or growth points, because it seems like every area, we just want to make it a growth point. But somehow, we are not exhausting the criterias. So that's why you find now we declare this settlement, this area as a settlement today, and then next year you don't have funds because now you need to run around to ensure that that village council has some funds, because now you need to push it to a town, ultimately to a municipality, so that it can be sustainable on its own. So we have a lot of growth points that are still relying on the government coffer, because they can't pick up because of the buying power within that, or there are no economic viability or activities within that area. So we need to critically criticize and assess these issues prior to putting a stamp on some of these documents. Continuous resource mobilization through our NTEF, and also to look at the mechanism of public-private partnerships, which at this moment is not really being exhausted or being perused with much effort, because some projects are quite big to be undertaken through the MTEF. They require a private sector to play their part there. And then also the establishment of a sound management information system. I think this point, had I known, I could have taken it out, because I then later saw it in the feedback from the Minister of Urban and Rural Development. We can continue. Oh. I think that brings me now to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pea Mushelenga Jr. Said this is not the minister. So maybe it's that type of someone naming his or her son or her daughter after another person. He didn't clarify that one. We were interested in knowing how you became a Pea Mushelenga and not the minister. Yeah, I want to apologize to Honorable Imbamba. She is here, the chairperson of the Erongo Regional Council. When she came in, we did not acknowledge her presence. And that is really regrettable. But our minister already spoke to her, so I believe Mbamba, maybe people don't know you. You may stand. Yeah. That is the Honorable Chairperson of Erongo Regional Council. She is the Regional Councillor for Arandis constituency. Welcome, Meme. Was your CRO also here? It's coming back, yeah? Yeah, he was here with her, and I... can we have a round of questions quickly? Any question to Mr. Mushelenga? The other one is Dr. Mushelenga. This one is Mr. Yeah, Eric, you can take one from there. There. Can we have your hands up if you have any question or comment? If not, we will proceed to the next. Is there a hand? Okay. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Farai Chumamrombe from Ministry of Works and Transport. I have a question or a suggestion to the NPC. We have some buildings or construction that has been going on, especially the offices, sub-offices, and also the workshops. And we've been suffering so much in terms of securing enough funding. So I'm just want to request, if possible, for the NPC that they can have a special funding program so that we'll be able to construct offices in the various regions. And this has been online for a number of years. That's my request. I submit.
Any other? Before, okay, there's one this side, in front here.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Musherenga Jr., for the good presentation. My name is Dangolo. I'm impressed by the proposal by NPC to think of giving some incentives to some of the members of the coordinating committees, like the CDC, in attempt to also kind of promote interest among the members of the CDC. Oshana Regional Council at one time took a resolution to kind of motivate the CDCs being the basic and very important component in terms of regional development, to also kind of be giving them a little allowance which the council can afford, where we have started with a little amount of $200 per member per sitting. This was a kind of a risk-taking initiative, but now that the national government is also recognizing these efforts of the CDCs, we are happy now that this policy or legal basis to which we will then also be aligning our initiative of compensating or motivating in monetary terms the CDCs, it's a welcoming effort to the Oshana Regional Council. And we are actually in the process of also reviewing these little allowances to maybe make it a little bit more attractive by the CDCs. Thank you very much.
Okay, from Chief Nangolo Jr., who is the, yeah, he's the junior, because the real Nangolo is Mwenoma Kuya. Yeah, it's to you.
Okay, I'm also junior. Okay, well, stay Kavango West. It was a good presentation, but I was just moved when Shilenga, said one of the key component for regional, no, for national planning is to identify developmental priorities. I'm not well vested coming to development, but I want to touch on capital project. Like, as all of us we know, Kavango West is one of the newest region, which does not have a lot of infrastructure in terms of officer accommodation. Is one of the key area where we are lacking. And then in terms of initiative, who's supposed to initiate it? For instance, maybe if we need an office for education, that is just to say. So it need to come from us as a region, or it's supposed to be something which was already, in the plan for NPC. Then for us just to wait NPC maybe to construct in terms of equity. And then the other things, that one, education is just an example, but there are also key line ministry where we are lacking those facilities. Then the other one, coming to, okay, you mentioned gross point or settlement. Maybe NPC also to come up with an estimate. If you want to graduate, for instance, a settlement to a town council level, what is that expected? Because I will get it not right. For instance, maybe for us to budget a settlement over 10 years before it graduates, meaning that, budget allocation is where we are lacking, but maybe if we can also come up, with our strategy to see, if there is a settlement, how much, or what is that expected from as National Planning Commission to say, here, Regional Council, at least we have done justice, take it over. Okay, thank you.
I believe that was the last question. We can now give to Mr. Mushelenga, but I also want to say some of the questions don't seem to be for Mr. Mushelenga. Ne? The last part of the last colleague who seems to be more for us as urban and rural development. And then the one from Chief Nangolo, also I think is to a certain extent not for NPC. The remuneration or the payment of some token of appreciation to the members of the CDCs. He can say whatever he would want to say, but I think you may not be the appropriate person to answer some of those questions. You may have to go back to the podium there, and then so that they see you whether you are confident of answering or you are, okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. In fact, that is the clarification that I wanted to give before I attempt to answer. To say, National Planning Commission, in terms of implementation, we are not there. We don't implement projects and programs. We only coordinate. So, meaning when it comes to the identification of priorities in the region, and maybe that's where now the issue of our planning structures comes in. The identification of priorities from the CDC or RDC level, so that when it comes to the RDCC, that's where the regional body now prioritize, and that's where you find all the heads of institutions. That's where you find all the heads of institutions, from education, health, to MICT. So the identification of a certain project, it must just go through those structures. It can be an initiative from the regional council, and then in consultation with that ministry or office. So it's not for National Planning Commission to come and say, no, we need to construct a school here. And also the other, in terms of our organization or institution, we are just there to expect your project identification forms through the line ministries, and then we avail fund based on the criteria that we used to actually appraise those projects. So I think that is the only question that is talking to National Planning Commission. The other two questions really, it has to go through the mother ministry. Thank you.
You have done your part, and thank you very much for that. Pass on our appreciations to ED Wiras, and inform her that you have done a good job. Yeah, we are going to make a change on the program, and maybe let me also take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable Governor. Welcome, that Andre. We missed you in the morning. Yeah, we are going to make changes to the program. The next item is supposed to be a presentation by our IT division, by Mr. Peter van Heerden, on IT issues. But we have a panel discussion that is supposed to start at 2 after lunch. And because of the live streaming that is supposed to be done by NBC, they unfortunately cannot wait any further or any longer. So we are bringing the panel discussion to now, and shifting the presentation by Mr. Peter van Heerden to after the panel discussion. At this juncture, I want to hand over to Ms. Ndopu Lumbinda, the CRO for Zambezi Regional Council. She will moderate the panel discussion. And once it is done, I believe she will also then have to facilitate the next presentation. I want to end my task here. I believe you will forgive me for all the problems associated with this morning's program. The untimely starting, and then moving over to lunch without really being without following the program. I take responsibility for that. Before Meme Rumbinda, just wait. Just wait. Yeah, just wait. Wants to say something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the Honorable Governor for Erongo wants to say something before we move on to the panel discussion. I know he's a very, very efficient man in terms of time. Yeah, I have known him for a long time, so I know what I'm talking about. Honorable Governor, can you please come to the podium?
Thank you, Mr. Uhepa. Very diplomatically, Mr. Uhepa is saying that I must not talk long, short. But thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Minister, the Executive Director, and of course all two Executive Directors that are here today, and all those that are participants to this platform. I don't want you to go back to your respective regions and say that not even the governor has said welcome to us. So I thought that I must take this opportunity, even just to say you are welcome, feel at home here in Erongo region. You are at a venue that is very, capable in terms of capacitating or actually having all you here. It's also the topic that you're discussing is a very important topic, which is about decentralization, and to see how decentralization is effective to all our different respective areas in our different regions. And I just want to therefore just say that you feel at home here in Erongo region, and we are always happy to receive your presence here in our region, and surely, hopefully that whatever we can assist in terms of the region, we'll be able to give to yourself as visitors. And thank you very much for this platform. Thank you. You heard my voice, and you are welcome.
Yeah, thank you once again, Comrade Governor. Can I then hand over to Meme Ndopu Lumbinda to take us forward?
Thank you. Can we give a hand to Mr. Uhepa? Thank you. Allow me to call upon the panelists before we proceed to the session, then I'll start. We have Mr. Gidinwa Daniel, Executive Director. Mr. Alfred Chihambuma, Deputy Executive Director, Public Service Commission. Mr. Petras Nangolo, Deputy Executive Director, representing the ED as well. Mr. J. Cantana, Director, General Services. Mr. Philip Chilongo, Chief Regional Officer, Ohangwena Regional Council, as well as Chairperson of the CRO's Forum. I'll start formally with my session. Honorable Minister, Honorable Governor, Honorable Chairperson, Executive Director, Mr. Daniel, Deputy Auditor General present here, Deputy Executive Directors who are here, Chief Regional Officers, Directors, Deputy Directors, Heads of Delegated Institutions, and other members who have been invited to this session. The session is about accelerating decentralization policy implementation for improvement of services. We'll be moderating the session. I'm hoping that all panelists will not have disclaimers that they have been duly appointed to represent the EDs, and what they speak confirms the position of the ministry. colleagues. We have about 1 hour to 1 hour, 30 minutes to 2 hour session as planned, and this is a very critical session. We are really hoping that we'll hear from the various panelists. To start with, decentralization has been noted to hold great promise for improving service delivery to our public members and to improving outcomes for service delivery. I hope that we'll hear from you as the panelists, your perspectives on this matter and how your sectors or institutions have made this target of ensuring that we have improved service delivery over the years we have decentralized. Another aspect we should also think about as you present is the issue that we have been in the delegation phase for quite a number of years. And initially it was promised that we would have 3 years minimum to actually move from delegation to devolution. We would like to find out from the sector ministries how committed are we to moving from the phase of delegation to devolution? How committed and prepared? And for the Chief Regional Officer, Mr. Philip, how ready are the regional councils to receive devolved functions? The other issue I would like to also touch on, we have oversight responsibilities as ministries. Now, we have delegated functions over the years. And one challenge we still have is that you would find an ED still dealing with a broken tap somewhere there deep in Impalila. How have we aligned ourselves in terms of performing our oversight responsibility over delegated functions instead of continuing to deal with operational responsibilities which have been delegated to regional councils over the years? Have our structures as delegating ministries, as ministries, ever changed over the years to align ourselves to ensure that we are strategic and deal with oversight responsibility, and the structures at regional level have changed to perform operational? So I'm just touching on a few things. I believe you have prepared your presentation, but we would like to hear some of these key issues. How ready are we to move to devolution? How have we aligned our structures, or are the structures of central government growing? Well, those at operational level which need to be changed, moving. With that, we will start with the first session. I would like to call for introduction Mr. Daniel, Executive Director of the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, and they are free to have the session there, which I'll be joining them now. You don't need to move here. Mr. Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The topic of the discussion, I have taken note of your interventions and your guidance in terms of what is to be discussed. But if you allow me, the topic that is on the agenda is accelerating decentralization policy implementation for the enhancement of service delivery. And based on that topic, allow me to say the following. As the coordinating ministry, the said topic to me indicates, for one, the word accelerating means that we are doing something. And basically what we need to do then is simply to basically to scale up in order to be able to sustain the gains that we have achieved through decentralization. So there's a recognition that, one, decentralization is important, so there is consensus on that issue. And there's also congruence or also an alignment on the belief that decentralization has benefits for our country and our citizens. Going back in terms of the provision of our constitution, and in the early part of the morning, we have referred to Article 95, which obliged the state to take active measures to ensure the welfare of the citizens. And based on that realization, then we have, the Constitution has gone further to even provide for the means that are required and vehicles through which that noble goal is supposed to be achieved. Namely, the provision for the establishment of regional councils and the local authority councils as the vehicle for us as a state to be able to achieve effective local governance and the delivery of services in the manner that is really in touch with the citizenry. In the early part also of the, of our session this morning, we have also, through the presentation that was done by Director Godwin Sikawongo, we have also taken stock of the journey that we set for ourselves and what we have achieved, the challenges that we have encountered through the process, and most importantly, also, we have identified what needs to change for us to be able to scale up the gains that we have started realizing. Now, among the issues that we have identified that we need to work on, I think there was reference to policy and legislative reforms. We have indicated that for us to be able to realize the goals that we have set ourselves, there has to be an enabling policy and regulatory environment. We have taken note that from the Constitution, there's general provisions for the role of regional councils and local authorities, and therefore decentralization of functions and duties down to those structures. But we have also identified that with the passage of time, some of those legislative and policy instruments, they may no longer be, being responsive to the, and helping us to achieve the purpose that we had initially envisaged. And therefore, there is need for us to relook some provisions and be able to ensure that the policies that are guiding us are in order. That's one. We have also taken account of issues of capacity constraints, that we have realized that for us to be able to achieve the targets and the desired outcomes that we have set for ourselves, we need to have the capacities at all levels, whether it's human, it's technical, and financial. And through the presentations that we made in the morning, and I'm sure those elements will also come out through the other individual presentations that will be shared during the rest of the workshop days, issues of capacity has come out very strong at all levels. Then there are also systemic issues that have also been referred to. In the presentation by the National Planning Commission, we have also identified, and also this also came out through the presentation by the Office of the Prime Minister, to say, if you don't have a roadmap of what you need to do, when you need to do it, and who is supposed to do what, then you are likely to be doing something, but at the same time, you are not able to measure the impact and whether you are making progress or not. And in the presentation by the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development through Director Sikawongo in the morning, we have indicated that among the instruments that we believe need to be in place is for us to have a very comprehensive monitoring and evaluation framework on decentralization, so that all the activities that we have identified to be decentralized, indeed, we have very clear timelines when such decentralization should take place. And Madam Moderator, I think on that particular issue, that will also address the issue that you have raised when you were saying we have been on the delegation phase of decentralization for too long. And what we are saying is that going forward, we will now have very clear timelines that will be binding both the decentralizing line ministries as well as regional councils and the other offices that have a role to play in the process of decentralizing functions, clear timelines when those activities have to be achieved. And we will have to sign service level agreements in that regard. So that is one of the issues. Again, it is very instructive from the presentation by the National Planning Commission when they were referring to regional and strategic plans. And this is also complemented by also the presentation by the Office of the Prime Minister in terms of the need for us to have a whole of government approach in terms of planning and also in terms of measuring our performances so that we do not have standalone local development strategic plans and annual plans which do not speak to regional strategic plans and also which do not also fit very well with the national development plans. So we need to have an enhanced whole of government approach by ensuring that there is alignment in terms of the way, what we plan and how we are going to measure ourselves as a government. It is very clear that as citizens, they would not so much mind as to who provided which component or body of government provides the services that they need. All they know is that they have a government, and how we arrange ourselves to provide that service is immaterial to them. They simply want that service. If it is a regional council, it's a regional council. That is for purposes of planning. But otherwise, the citizens will either say, the government is there for us, is truly our government, or the government is failing us. And it's important that the way we organize ourselves, we take into account the whole of government approach. Maybe my last contribution, in this first intervention is the issue of coordination, and digitization. We've talked about, I think, when the NPC was presenting how vast this country is, and we have very sparsely populated and settlements, where our people are habiting, and how do we ensure that there is effective delivery of services to our people, and also, most importantly, how do we communicate to each other? Issue of digitization is very important for us, for purposes of accountability, but also by ensuring that indeed, as we have committed ourselves to say, through decentralization, we want to bring services and government close to the people. That may not necessarily be by way of physical, but we could also do that, through the use of digitization and ICT. Thank you, Madam Moderator. These are my opening interventions.
Thank you very much, ED, for articulating those key issues, which would also look at us accelerating decentralization, particularly looking at us or ensuring that service delivery is improved. This whole government approach becomes quite very critical. I hope that the audience is taking note. We'll open up for discussions later. We are moving on, and we'll still come back to the issues which the ED has raised and try to interrogate them. At this point in time, allow me to invite to the podium from Minister of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication, Mr. Bingineko, Director General Services, representing the ED. We will not have a representative from Minister of Finance. Unfortunately, they are not available. And from the University of Namibia, they are also not available. So the two presentations would not, presentations would not be made. Thank you. We proceed, and at this time, we would like to now move to the line ministries. As introduced, the topic and so some of the issues I've highlighted, we would like to really get the perspectives of decentralizing line ministries in terms of how they are moving towards accelerating the implementation of decentralization. Most of us here have said it takes too long, it's taking too long. Can I invite Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, representing the ED.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. My name is John Cantana. It's been introduced. The Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, we're delighted Yes, we were delighted to have been invited to come share our experiences in terms of decentralization. You also have helped, Madam Moderator, to say we need to concentrate on 3 key issues. As a Minister of Education, how over the years have we aligned our structures so that we can be able to fit into the equation of the Regional Council. The other issue that I will be able to touch on is over the years, I must also declare that I'm also a product of the Regional Council since 1998. And as such, if you look at Ministry of Education, already is one of the 2 ministries that I can remember that have already structures in place in the regions. It's Education and Ministry of Health and Social Services. In 1997 already there were about 6 or 7 regional directors. I think I remember one in Zambezi, Tatematiti that time, if not the second. Then Kavango, that time they had one Kavango. And then, so was the Ministry of Health and Social Services. What this says is that the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture have been on the forefront to ensure that our services are decentralized to the regions. Why is that? Is that we deal of shaping the country's human resources. And if you look at every villages, maybe we might be in this case competing with the Minister of Urban and Rural Development. In your case, in each village you shall have a headman or a headwoman there. But for Minister of Education, Arts and Culture, at every location, almost across the country, you have a school there that will be able to provide access to education. Therefore, in terms of Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, we have been prepared all along. Maybe the other thing that I wanted to add is that these 7 regional directorates were expanded to 13, and then eventually in 2014, they became 14 on the addition of Kavango West Regional Council. Therefore, we take as a ministry the view that when you engage the colleagues, the regional directors, you shall always notice that they are out participating in the regional council's activity in terms of planning. They always participate in the regional retreat of the regional councils, the planning and the likes. So we are there in terms of us, our readiness in terms of participating in the regional council's activities. What is of importance is that we are one of the biggest ministry, and some of you might know that composition of the public service, we are about 40,000, close to 39,000 civil servants. And when the minister was doing a roll call earlier here, it's only the 2 of us that stood, myself and my colleagues there. But if you look into the audience here, you can see that the Minister of Education is already ready because they did not stand with us, the regional directors. They stood with their respective regions. So that means that we have been leading. Probably might have also leapfrogged the colleagues at the others that we started with. We don't want to mention names, but you shall see that in each region the regional directors are there. The impact that they are impacting on these structures are immense. Maybe the other issue that I want to indicate is that being the largest, one of the largest ministries, you should also note that in terms of local development, economic development, the Ministry of Education is also there to ensure that in terms of procurement services, I just checked before I came here with my colleagues, my counterpart at finance, the director of finance. What the ministry is doing is that on monthly basis, we also allocate funds to the regional councils. That's the Directorate of Education, to ensure that the procurement of services, as well as other activities that are the undertaking, are being taken care of. So my intervention, Madam Moderator, is that the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, last year and before last year, we have conducted an assessment in terms of the readiness for us to develop our services. And the last exercise have given us to say, in terms of capacity and readiness, I think this time around, Omaheke have come up on top to say that in terms of the methodology used as well as the assessment, they have ticked all the boxes and they are ready. It's only now the leadership and also decisions that ought to be taken. We are not discounting other regions because we have assessed, I think there were 6. That's your Kunene, that's your Erongo, that's your Maheke, that's your Hardap and Karas. So in this exercise that we have conducted, as I indicated, Madam Moderator, is that Omaheke, in terms of our assessment, they are ready to go. I don't know what's the reason, but we can see that probably one of our previous veteran director was robbed to go to the regional council, hence maybe there might be some of the reason that Omaheke is stopping. I think for now, I can end there. If there's any follow-up questions, and I will be able to add. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kantana, for that presentation. We are all hoping that the reason is for improved service delivery and ensuring that services are closer to our people, and none other reason, which is there. But thank you for that. I think from education, we hear that education is ready and has been on the forefront of ensuring that they move from delegation to devolution, and they have been putting up structures and other issues to accelerate the implementation. We'll still have questions later. We move to the next presenter, Mr. This one for Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Nangolo. Please proceed and give us the perspectives from the Minister of Agriculture, Water, and Land Reform.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. My name is Pietro Escanisius Nangolo. I represent my ED from the same ministry. Yeah, of course, I just want to comment on the issues of decentralization. We realize that we are the ministry that cannot be said it is too small, neither bigger. But what outcoming is that we are the ministry that is really holding the issues of bread and butter. For the first reason that our ministry deals with agriculture, that is production of food for consumption. We deal with issues of water for livestock and human consumption. We deal with issues of land, which are economic drivers, whether local economy or national economy. Based on that, we realized that since there have been policies and the Enabling Act that is driving decentralization, we say yes. We appreciate the approach simply because the large of our constituency is basically in the regions, constituency, and everywhere. Our footprint is everywhere in the regions, whether it's on the lands division, whether it is on agriculture production. As it goes, we believe that the majority of the tasks that we intend to, or that we delegated to the regional councils, we understand that somehow there is a progress in a forward motion, in a sense that the acceptability of the delegated functions from the regional council is overwhelming. However, from our side, we have conducted the assessment to understand that the delegation functions, are they really understood? Are they executed as it's supposed to be? So that we can, together with the regional council, understand each other before the final devolution. I will come to the results at a later stage. But of course, we believe that for us, from the side of the ministry, in some areas, we have been challenged with issues of recruitment of all the necessary human capacities in some of the portfolios that's supposed to be delegated to the regional council. And our action is that we developed a strategic intervention where we need to ensure that this financial year we move with speed to ensure that we will be able to fill our positions. If it is minimum, it should be in the range of 300 positions, whether it is agriculture or whether it is lands, whether it is water, at the regions, so that we should be able to operationalize effectively those functions together with the regional council. Of course, we know that it has taken some time, and sometime for a reason that you find functions that are delegated to the regional council, but perhaps because of a need of improved communication on how certain functions should be carried out, we realize that some of the functions still need improvement on how to be executed by the regional councils. The issues of planning together, the issues of popularizing strategic plan and annual plan is one of the issues that we believe need a better coordination between our ministry and the regional councils. We also understand that issues like integrated regional land use plan is one of the functions that we believe should be able to be executed once the plans are finalized and handed over. But of course, there still needs a communication line, perhaps how we have to internalize and own up that important activity. the assessment results shows us that with exemption of Kavango, we have not done that because we have just set up one of our functions there, is that the majority of activities we would have wanted to see a degree of higher improvement before devolution. And therefore, our strategy is to work with the regional council to make sure that we dialogue and we highlight areas of improvement so that we can be able to see how best can be improved before we embark upon a decentralization, a complete devolution of those functions. So basically, in a nutshell, we are moving forward with this dialogue so that we ensure that we see this improvement. What could be the timeline? We would have wished that it should be a very shortest time so that we see these functions devolved in the end. That will be my input for now, Madam Facilitator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nangolo. Indeed, you are saying the Ministry of Agriculture is quite ready, however, requires further dialogue with regional councils to move towards full implementation of decentralization. That should be noted. Thank you for that. And noting some of the challenges which you are stating have been captured in the assessment which was recently done. So we'll still come back to those issues later. I hope the audience is preparing themselves. We'll proceed now with Minister of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare, Mr. Mbikineko.
Thank you very
Director.
much, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The ministry, as I said earlier in the beginning, the Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare delegated most of its functions to the regional councils already, such as child welfare services, gender equality and research, community development, early childhood development, social grants, and funeral benefits. However, we are having two functions that are not yet decentralized, and that is disability affairs and marginalized communities. We were planning to visit the regions for readiness assessment, and unfortunately that did not take place for the past few years. One of the aspects contributing to that, in our view, is lack of similar understanding of decentralization and not attaching similar significance or importance to decentralization. As a matter of fact, the leadership of ministries, almost be it political or administrative, the leadership change. You may have a different ED, a different minister, deputy minister, and so on. And one would argue that for a long time, a reorientation of the staff members, a reorientation of political office bearers as regards decentralization did not take place for a long time. And one would think that has a bearing on the effectiveness of implementing the decentralization program. And another challenge, you know, as I said in the morning,
we are the ministry representing the most vulnerable members of society. If a member of the public does not have an ID, that will have an effect on receiving our services. Therefore, our mandate empowers us to speak beyond our territories. Madam Moderator, we feel that, yes, the legal framework is there for decentralization. However, a clear strategy and a clear implementation plan, they are lacking. By so doing, it appears, despite the existence of the legal framework, OMAs have the discretion to decide, do I decentralize or do I not? It doesn't seem to be a must. And even those that decide to implement, do I decentralize a function? Do I decentralize a task? Or do I decentralize a fabric unit? Those are the type of questions. Therefore, as far as the way forward is concerned, there is a critical need for providing a reorientation to staff members at all levels of central government and regional councils, a reorientation to political office bearers, members of parliament, referring to both houses so that we all have a common understanding of decentralization. And there's an urgent need for a strategy and an implementation plan for decentralization. We think once we put all this in place, implementation will be accelerated, efficiency and effectiveness will be enhanced. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I believe you have touched on some of the things the ED has touched on. They need to have a very clear roadmap and noting the issue of reorientation. We are about to go for elections. There will be new ministers. There have been cases you're at 95% execution and the new minister says, wait, I need to understand this before I sign off. So maybe those are issues the ED should actually clear out. Would the fact that I come in as a new minister today entail that I stop a process which is at 95, 99% execution for me to understand? And my understanding is there a defined time frame within which I'm given to understand a process before I endorse. And we have had experience of 2-3 years, a minister is understanding. So we'll hear from the ED on that. Thank you very much, Gender, for that presentation. Due to time, we will just proceed with all presentations and open up for further engagement and discussions. Therefore, allow me to invite Mr. Philippus Shilongo, chairperson of the CRO's Forum, to give the perspective of from the regional council side.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and a very good afternoon to Honorable Minister, Honorable Governor, our EDs, and the rest of the participants. I would like to first appreciate the fact that the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development have made it possible for the regional councils to present our perspective with regards to decentralization. But before I do that, I also want to quickly highlight the theme of this consultative forum today, which is towards the full implementation of the decentralization policy in Namibia, and more so to appreciate the fact that we are talking about accelerating the implementation. These topics and the theme itself talks very well in the line with what we would like to see happening at the regional level. I must indicate here that as we represent the 14 regional councils, we are actually representing the masses on the ground. And the masses expect nothing other than service deliveries. But one of the key issues that we would like to reflect on is the fact that regional councils are strategically positioned to be able to deliver in terms of our mandate as provided in the Regional Council Act. And I would like to highlight briefly that one of the key mandates is to plan for physical and socio-economic development of the regions. And if services are to come to the regions, it should come through the Regional Council, which is a sub-national government, and I would like to underline that one. We are not a ministry, we are a sub-national government. And being a sub-national government, we are there to provide quality services. We appreciate what has been done in terms of the decentralization process, but I think we should also reflect that way back, like 26 years or 27 years after the adoption of the decentralization policy, it is only 6 functions that has been so far delegated to the regional councils. And this shows that there is really a need to accelerate the implementation, and also there is also a need to ensure that we need to move towards full implementation of the policy. I think for me this is very, very critical, and that is the view of the Regional Council, because we do not want to wait too long. Madam Moderator, I must also indicate here that when we deal with this process, which is a government reform, very, very important one, we need to get the perspective in terms of the legal perspective. Legal perspective in the sense that whatever process we are doing, we should do the due diligence. We should focus on the manual as it has been established, but we should also consider our mandate and the mandate of the delegating line ministries. We really appreciate that those mandates, when we are at the regional level, we actually implement the mandates of all those delegated functions, delegated line ministries. And that in itself is a daunting challenge that needs a proper organization, that needs clear capacities, not only at the regional level, but also capacity from the delegating line ministry, because they need to understand the mandate of the regional council. I must also highlight here that one of the very critical perspectives with regards to decentralization, and which is close to our heart as regional council, is the governance structure. The governance structure at both central and regional level is very, very important. But again, when we are accepting this function, which we are ready to accept, we also want to make sure that there are no gray areas in the process. The process should be very clear to all of us. When we talk of things like sector-specific service delivery standards, it should be properly understood by both the regional council and even by the delegating line ministries. But at some point, you might also be, you might be shocked to find out that you might have staff members being delegated, being seconded, but then when you say, can you please share with me what are the sector-specific service delivery standards, you might find some of them are struggling to give you an answer. And this is very crucial, because as much as we need to have capacity, line ministries that are delegating should also create capacity to the people that are sent to the regional level. The other perspective, which is quite important, is the administrative perspective. We would like, sorry, but before I go to that one, again, at the governance structure or governance perspective, we would like to see that as much as ministers sign the agreement with the chairpersons, so as ED signed agreement with the chief regional officers, this governance structure should also get ways to have constant consultation on what you have delegated and what we have received, so that we keep abreast with any issues that are coming up. And if we don't do that, then we might not be able to get it right. The other perspective, as I said earlier, is the administrative perspective, whereby we would like to make sure that whatever technical issues, the formalities, even in things like the secondment agreements that you have signed, sometimes you also need to understand, is it really valid to continue having the secondment letters or secondment agreements for so many years? Are we now doing it right, or are we totally out of the track? And these are very crucial for the successful implementation, and even for accelerating the implementation. Madam Moderator, the other very important perspective with regards to the Regional Council is the planning and budgeting when we deal with delegated functions. It is always a challenge if functions are delegated to the Regional Council and you hear today or tomorrow, no, this office, the electricity is cut off. Or you hear, no, this car is stuck at the government garage for almost 2 years. But when you find out, the answer will be either there's no budget provision, and therefore we do not want to see the fact that we just decentralize or delegate for the sake of delegating, but there are no corresponding resources to be able to provide quality services to our people. As I said earlier, we are on the ground. We work with the masses. We deal with the electorate every day, and we expect that as a responsive government, we should really take care of the needs of our communities. In conclusion, Madam Moderator, you have asked several questions, but I must just briefly indicate here that when it comes to the level or the stage of this delegation, I think it is way backwards in terms of what we want to see. We would like, and we wanted to have devolution already last year. And in conclusion, we are actually ready and we are willing to cooperate and coordinate with the delegating line ministries so that we deliver quality services to our residents. And I so submit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shilongo, for that confirmation that regional councils have been ready. Last year, I heard one of the regional councils says 10 years ago, possibly. I think you have raised some legal issues which are also coming. We have signed secondment letters of some functions 2 years ago. Now, these people are seconded, but they are not with us. We don't know in terms of discipline, misconduct cases, how these issues are being handled in terms of operation. So these are issues which will further be clarified as we proceed. That I'll place it, sorry, it's not that the ED is seated next to me, but I think these are the legal issues. Being the coordinating institution, he needs to clear. And possibly, the public service is coming. How do you second a person in 2021 and that person has never reported to the seconding institution 2 to 3 years later? So Mr. Chambuma, maybe also assist us when you come to your presentation. At this point in time, let me move to the last presentation, last panelist, Mr. Chambuma from Office of the Prime Minister, and he's from the Public Service Commission Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. As stated, I am from the Office of the Prime Minister, but I am assigned to the Public Service Commission. I'm sure all of us are aware that the Public Service Commission as an autonomous body, but as the staff member who are serving them are staff member from the Office of the Prime Minister. Maybe having said that, in terms of Article 113 of the Constitution, the Public Service Commission advised President and government on appointment of suitable person to special job category with special regard to balance structuring thereof. And maybe I need to state to you that the Prime Minister as head of administration, on the recommendation of the Public Service Commission, as we are speaking today, we have structures in place across OMAS and Regional Council. We have policies in place when it comes to human resource management. We also have a condition of service applicable to staff members appointed across OMAS and Regional Councils. And maybe I need also to state that you have been talking about delegated function of Line Ministry. Maybe in terms of Office of the Prime Minister, or in terms of the Prime Minister, maybe let me talk about delegated function of the Prime Minister. In terms of Section 7 of the Public Service Act, I'm sure we are aware that the Prime Minister is the appointing authority for staff member appointed in OMAS on the recommendation of Public Service Commission. While on the other hand, the Regional Council are the appointing authority of staff member appointed in the Regional Council on the recommendation of the Public Service Commission. Now the Prime Minister, in terms of Section 7, has delegated some of her function to EDs, but of late in 2023, especially for Ministry of Education, some of the, especially appointment of relief teachers, appointment of transfer, appointment of retirement of staff member have also further been delegated to Director of Education. And then also on the other hand, the Public Service Commission also in terms of Section 8 of the Public Service Commission Act has also delegated, for example, appointment of staff member below management to managers responsible for human resource in OMAS and regional councils. The reason why this was done is to ensure that we avoid delays. It's also to empower various OMAS and regional councils. But we should also take note that there are conditions attached to these delegated powers that need to be adhered to at all times. Because what happened at the end of the day, from the Public Service Commission Secretariat, we go out, conduct HR audit to verify whether there were adherence, especially when it comes to appointment of staff members or whatever human resource management policy process. And then we compile a report and present to the Commission, and accounting officers from various institutions are being called upon to account what transpired. And we compile a report. Maybe we should also borrow the vocabulary of Auditor General. We'll compile, what is it? Qualified, unqualified HR audit also and submit. Yeah, I'm just mentioning this, that if you don't adhere, at the end of the day, the delegate team might withdraw this, and then we'll move back to delays. So that's why I thought I should mention that. And then I should also admit that we have some requests that we have received from staff member to be seconded in terms of delegated function that we have been talking about. There are delays from our side, simply because, especially when it comes to bigger ministry, education and health, we receive submissions with hard copies of, for argument's sake, 2,000 staff members that need to be seconded. But from our side, before the commission recommend, we need to verify, check the ID and the name. Sometimes you just find a name without surname, or a name without job category. So there have been this back and forth between us, the Secretariat and line ministries. So, but we have found a solution. We are trying to move forward. So far we have requests from Ministry of Agriculture, I think Youth, Education, Health that we are busy with. We are in the process, maybe in the next 4 weeks, I'm sure we will get feedback. But now coming to the question that the CRO asked, or the moderator asked, on what should happen, especially for misconduct cases of seconded staff member. The staff member who are seconded to regional council, when it comes to misconduct issues, they go back to the line ministry. What you need to do as a CRO, you just forward the information, report what transpired. So it's up to the line ministry now, ED, to start the process. The challenge that we are having, we have staff member appointed in the regional council are appointed in terms of a different law compared to staff member appointed in OMAS. Staff member appointed in OMAS are appointed in terms of Public Service Act 13 of 1995, while those ones in the regional council are appointed in terms of Regional Council 22 of 1992, as well as one of those old Act 2 of 1980, that was kept alive by the Regional Council Act. So you see, that's why what we are advocating for, or maybe since we are saying we need to accelerate implementation of decentralization, maybe once we move to devolution, I'm sure this problem will be solved. Now coming to answer your question that you asked earlier, what should happen for us to accelerate implementation of decentralization? Maybe it's high time that we need to unpack, we need to re-engineer decentralization process. This is a topic that we have been talking about all these years, ever since the policy was put in place, but we have never reflected or go back and see where the challenges are lying. We need to find out, I've been hearing challenges that apparently there is no political will and there are no resources available. Maybe these are assumptions. We need to sit down and try to ask those critical questions that will help us, or that will enable us to take a decision and move forward. So that at the end of the day, we'll come up with a recommendation of what should happen. For instance, in terms of short term or the quick wins, medium terms, and also maybe a long term, so that at the end of the day, we move forward. Because we cannot keep on repeating the same, coming to to these forums, and then we go back, but we are not making headways. Otherwise, we will keep on repeating the same mistake all over and over, or we keep on crossing the same river and being eaten by the same crocodile. With that, I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chihambuma. I thought once you are eaten, you are eaten. Cannot go back to be eaten again. Unless it's spiritual, eh? But thank you very much for those issues which have been raised. The emphasis on some of the delaying factors in terms of secondment, the verification of staffing, and also another point to re-engineer. We're always talking about business re-engineering. Maybe, yes, various processes of decentralization needs to be looked at in something we can really look at and see whether we can shorten the process other than what we had earlier defined. I believe the legal frameworks are quite very clear. I see the issue of qualifying us and qualifying us, disclaiming us was a bit scary for some of us, you know. We are thinking we are never getting out of school. So, but maybe something which needs to be done. Thank you. We have done with all presentations, I believe. Before I take it back to the panelists, I would like to open the floor very briefly to the audience for 15 minutes or 10 minutes. If there are some key questions, you are not panelists, you are not going to give speeches. You just make your point or question, ask the panelists. It's for them to actually respond on some of these issues. The panelists, I believe, have also noted some of the issues coming from the presentations, and they'll come in later. Can those helping with the mic come and help us quickly? Okay, there's Ms. Mweti here. Can I see with a show of hands? Yes, Ms. Mweti, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Still standing on the protocol already established. I'll start with, I think I have one from the comment of the ED, our ED. He mentioned about digitalization. And I want to give a practical example of the NIAS system. For us who have very remote rural areas, sometimes we come up, yes, it's good to digitalize, but we don't look at the enablers. For example, is the network coverage in that area? Take Chumkwe, for example, in my region. We have Chumkwe constituency, where most of Chumkwe, there's no network coverage, let alone radio in some parts. Now with a system like that, then the people in those areas are already disadvantaged. I was also informing the same thing to the colleagues from Electoral Commission, because there's something, I think some jobs that they want to do online. Now I told them for Chumkwe constituency to be difficult, because then you won't get anyone from Chumkwe. You have to ship them from Rootfontein or somewhere, because those people, they don't have access to network in order for them to go online and apply for that job online. So really when we talk about digitalization, yes, we are going towards the fourth industrial revolution. We must look at all aspects or enablers that will enable that particular aspect to happen. And I think it goes also for when we are decentralizing. The regional context is not being taken into consideration by the delegating line ministries, especially the region where those people are going. They'll just sign across the country like one size fits all. But again, regions are not the same. Even in terms of office space, for example, some regions do not have, regional councils themselves do not have offices to start with. They are also renting, either they are with education or what, I don't know. It's only few regions that have office space. But sometimes we are decentralizing, and only after then we start now looking at all these nitty-gritties, where are they going to sit, and so on. So I think taking into consideration the regional context will also assist before we make a blanket approach of assessments, or even considering to delegate. The other one, my boss from gender, I failed to understand how there's been no assessment for a number of years, but a lot of functions have been delegated in those years. Now, for me, that does not balance well. And also the fact that there were a lot of transitions of leadership or whatever. I don't think it should affect, if you are having processes in place, systems and processes are not people-centered. Just like us CROs, we are there for 5 years, we are gone. But it doesn't mean when we are gone, then the whole system must stop because the CRO had signed and the people are not yet there and so on. There must be systems and processes in place so that things must just move. Whether it's a new ED coming or a new minister, when they find that process in place, they are acquainted with that process, then it must just happen. Otherwise, it will affect now the timelines, like you correctly said, that there's no fixed timelines. It's because we don't have a clear process, Mr. Skabongo, for decentralization. Because when you have a clear process, it will have timelines that from what to signing, so many months, from what to what, so many months. And then all of us would stick to those timelines. But I think there he was correct when he said, due to the lack of timelines, there's no pressure to say when we finish this step, we must do this step. So some ministries take longer, some are faster. So I really recommend that there should be a process that everyone should follow, so that it's not left to a delegating ministry to decide that we will sign this year, but we'll only send the staff members after 3 years. If we all have that process to follow, we will be forced to ensure that we adhere. Then it will be easy for us to talk about devolution. Currently now, really we are just talking because we want to have devolution, but we need to have those clear processes in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other hands? I know when it's around 5, this is the time you can pass a law in Namibia. Unchallenged.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Madam
Semba.
Moderator, the panelists. I was carefully listening to Mr. Shambuma and my ED, and I thought I would listen carefully and maybe get a glimpse of what I really want to know. In terms of the legislation, in terms of signing of agreements, secondment letters, or seconding a land ministry to the regional councils. If you take a classical example of the Ministry of Education, for example, it was seconded way back in 2007 to the regional councils. We are in 2024 now as we are speaking. And us as CROs are still signing submissions. Everything administratively is going through us because of a legislation that was signed in 2007. Am I right? 2007, I think. 9 of the secondment. How legal is this process, Mr. Shambuma? If we are challenged lawfully, do we have a leg to stand on in terms of this process? Because it was only supposed to be for 5 years. Now it is almost over 20 years now, or 18 years. I was just curious to know what is the legislation interpretation in that respect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll move back to the panelists. I don't see any other hand. We are going home. But let's engage. Members, as said earlier, we cannot be meeting and not show substantial movements. We will start with the other panelists and then end with the ED here, because he had quite a number of issues himself, which he will capture so that he covers what is left by the others. Members, maybe we can actually start with education, arts and culture. I know you have actually raised the structures of some years back, around 2000, when we moved from about 7 regional directories to 13 initially, and then we have 14. But those were structures of 20 years ago. What we are saying, in accelerating decentralization right now, how are we aligning structures to move and also respond to service delivery. Maybe you can also touch on that. For the Ministry of Agriculture, they have indicated that there is need for continued dialogue. Maybe if you can explain in what form is that dialogue going to be, and how soon will those engagements be? Is there already a schedule to say you'll be meeting various regional councils to finalize before we go to another annual decentralization forum next year? So is there a schedule in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, that we'll have these dialogues with the different regional councils to accelerate? Because I think my understanding is that your acceleration will also be dependent on this dialogue. For gender, in terms of the roadmap, I believe the questions have already been answered by the CRO of Ochozunjupa. I will not touch on that. Then from the regional councils, I believe a lot of issues have come in. Maybe I wanted to say I'm also part of the regional council, so I will not ask him, but maybe just for the emphasis to say regional councils ensuring that we are compliant with what has been said in terms of the Auditor General, because that was one of the requirements for decentralization, that we have audited financial statements. That's a key requirement. So how are we also preparing as regional council to meet this compliance as part of the readiness for devolution, so that we can assure central government level? Office of the Prime Minister, I believe they issued say we can re-engineer. I think the concern is the time it takes to re-engineer. We have heard about re-engineering for the last 10 years. Some of these processes have not ended with that re-engineering. Some have been done. So maybe how do we deal with ensuring that we accelerate these processes in terms of policies? You referred to an old act. You even said old act of Act 2 of 1980. That's before independence, but it has never been amended. So these are the concerns. As much as we say let's change the legal and policy framework, how are we accelerating that part, and how does Public Service Commission come in to assist us in that, right? So we'll start at the end there. Let me not call. Where's the, yes, start with gender. Please respond to the issues raised from the floor and from the moderator. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Maybe with regard to the aspect of readiness assessment, Madam Whitey, I want to look more forward than backward. We gave it a serious thought as a ministry, and we agreed that during the current quarter and the next quarter, we need to undertake a visit to at least 8 regional councils in Q1 to start still in the month of May and June, and the remaining 6 in the next quarter. The idea or the thinking being that when we talk about decentralization, we have different views and different understanding, and it will be necessary for us to start with the CROs and the management in the regions, and then again discuss the matter with staff members, the seconded staff members, for them also to have an understanding of decentralization and a number of issues like the triple SDS, sector-specific service delivery standards alluded to by Mr. Shilongo, to discuss these things first, and after we have we are on at the same wavelength, then the next day we look at readiness assessment. So this is what we are having in mind, with a view to determine as readiness towards devolution. We hope in the next 2 quarters we will respond to that question in practice. Thank you.
Thank you. Can the mic just move, please? To the next, Mr. Yes, Shilongo, please.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I would like to just assure the Auditor General of the country that yes, we have learned a lesson. We have also appreciate your involvement, especially when it comes to the preparation of the to actually be able to comply with the preparation of the financial statement, more particularly the adoption of the IPSAS. And we have also learned that we put up independent audit committees, which is also very, very useful in helping regional council to really look at what we are doing before we submit our financial statements. But also very important, we need to keep up so that we comply with Section 40 of the Regional Council Act, which means we need to submit our financial statement, although there's a bit of unfairness because we submit 3 months before the end, 3 months after the end of the financial year. But I think there's also a need to align. If sectors or ministries are submitting 6 months after the financial year ends, and regional councils are required to submit within 3 months, I think that is another thing that we need to reconsider so that we give appropriate time for almost everyone. Otherwise, we might take it a bit of unfairness. And then lastly, I must just indicate here that intergovernmental transfer is very, very crucial. And we also want to recognize that operating within a unitary state, we as a subnational government, we should really be looked at in the sense that when we say we want functions to be delegated, we just want them in the unitary state. It's not in any other means. And finally, I would like to once again appreciate this platform because it is important for the regions to really give our perspective, and we are ever ready to do all that possible so that we accommodate these functions. I know it's not that easy, but we also want to encourage some sort of ongoing consultation, because when it comes to things like National Planning Commission, for example, in terms of Article 129, we as the Regional Council also do the same at the regional level, but then we need to have consistent and ongoing consultation so that we look at issues like MTEF documents. We find documents, you see, so much is allocated to the region, but at the end of the financial year, even when the governors are doing what we call state of the region address, we always have to write to look for information from other sectors, because even if you talk about RDCC, some of the sectors are not represented, and therefore we would really like to take, yes, this is an opportunity that we can really take or maximize so that we improve in terms of service delivery. And I so submit. Thank you very much.
Madam Moderator, thank you very much for the opportunity once again. You raised a question to say as to how relevant is the structure of the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. There is ongoing discussion with the intention to review. I think the Office of the Prime Minister, is it not last year, or must be last year, that they have sent out a circular to line ministries to request for reviewing of the structure. there's a discussion to ensure that our structures across the country are not becoming obsolete. For instance, we were discussing now, debating the issue of technical personnel, your engineers, your architects, and the others. At one hand, we're saying, should we employ these team members at the head office? But then other discussions is to say that we are going towards the devolution of our services. Ideally, we want the structures of the regional council, especially the colleagues that works there, if we can able to make those provisions to have these people so that the construction of capital projects are happening in the region. And as such, it will be ideal if those positions are made provision at that level. I think we are debating about that one. I think a decision will be reached soon. Maybe the other thing that I wanted to conclude with is, Madam Moderator, is that Article 20 of the Namibian Constitution that requires the provision of education to all Namibians cannot be left to Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture alone, because that's heavy. As a result, that's why you have the structure that I've indicated in the regions there. But more so is to appeal to the regional councils, where, of course, there are those that are doing well in terms of procurement, but there are those that are also wanting in terms of the delays in procuring services that ought to assist in the execution of the mandate of the ministry. But as I indicated earlier, that we are engaging where we find contradictions among ourselves as cadres of the public service, but our appeal, there are some regions that are really, really delaying in terms of procuring services in order to enhance and expand the services of Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture. Maybe the other thing that I would want to conclude is that my ED wanted to be here, but because he's just returned from Ludres the other day, she have sent her sincere apology for not being here. She have conveyed that I must convey this message that she's with you. She's not in any way defying the invitation, but otherwise we are together. With that, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shamboma.
Thank you very much. On the question from my CRO from Maheke, since I'm also from Maheke, I'm conflicted somehow. I'm also equally concerned about the issue you mentioned about education, that this was signed long time ago, because I don't know even what was the thinking then. Maybe we should go back to those documents, original document, when the decision was taken that we should sign second this service area to regional council. Maybe the idea was that maybe we should all get all the areas, functional areas, and then we move to devolution. Maybe, I don't know. ED maybe will answer that question. But I wanted to indicate to you that we are also concerned, because sometimes we wonder when submission come to the commission, we see from education, CROs are signing, and sometimes we ask ourselves, what value do they add? Are they just being as a post office or what? So these are some of the questions that we need to check. Maybe on the issue of re-engineering, what I said, I think my colleague, my sister Susan, Ms. PMS, in her presentation, she mentioned one of the functional area OPM, or head division, or head directorate is conducting is business process re-engineering. I remember when this reform of re-engineering was introduced in 2007, was part of that because it was my other part of OPM function. I'm trying to recall whether, because ministries were asked to identify functional areas that need to be re-engineered, but I don't think this decentralization process was submitted. Maybe it's high time that we should maybe take this through the Department of Public Service Management for them to look at the various processes and maybe come up with a solution how we can speed up this process. I think that's what I propose. That need to happen so that we can, maybe we are claiming that we have policies in place, yet we are a unitary state. Maybe we need to, when we talk about decentralization, we should talk in terms of, or in context of unitary state. We are not a federal state. Maybe these are some of the things that maybe stop us from moving forward. And then the question of Act 2 of 1980, also, as I indicated, this was kept alive by the Regional Council Act 22 of 1992, because within it, it makes provision to certain section in Act 2 of 1980. Maybe the ministry will also brief us how far is it amendment of Regional Council Act. Maybe that problem will be addressed. I think with that, I so submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nangolo.
Thank you very much. As I have indicated earlier on, is that the position of Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform is to ensure that these activities are happening at the grassroots, and we would like them to be devolved as soon as possible. However, our understanding is that when a devolved function is carried out at the regional council, it should be done in a manner that it's comfortable to the delegating ministry or devolving ministry as well as the regional council. As the way forward, in terms of the dialogue, we have carried out the assessment, and this assessment have specific issues that are specific to the specific regional councils. And as such, we would like to discuss and try to unpack these issues and create a way forward on the manner how to move forward with these issues, so to say, in a corrective manner, so that the regional council and the ministry, we are at the same understanding on how that specific delegated function should be carried out. In such a manner, we believe that such a dialogue should put the regional council in a position to understand how that function should be carried out as the expectation of the ministry, while at the side of the ministry, we will also have a confidence that such a corrective matter should be able to align the regional council to carry out that function. As of this year, we would work with the regional council to share those specific issues. It is in our annual plan so that we can move with the process. In terms of the capacities that is necessary for us to fill our critical positions at the regional councils, that we as the ministry, we are working with that. We had already commenced with the process of making the necessary submissions of these positions to be cleared, and we have made budgetary provision for that. As we are going maybe to retreat once again at another decentralization forum, we should be able to cultivate a common ground on a corrective measures that we have spoken with the regional councils. Chair, I want to submit.
Thank you. Maybe before the ED, he's the last one to speak on the panelists. ED, just one issue. When you were presenting, you indicated about capacity building. I know the ministry has made a lot of investments over the years in terms of capacitating regional councils and delegating line ministries under decentralization. We have recently seen those where investments were made are retiring or have left. We are not sure now what the ministry we'll continue doing in terms of investment, whether there's a budget. I mean, every 10 years, there's a cycle of movement of knowledge. So maybe you can also touch that we have assurance that there will be financial investments still made for capacity building for regional councils who cannot afford. I raised this issue when Mr. Skabongo was presenting. He said regional councils should look for money for their IT, but it shouldn't be left. What if that regional council doesn't have funding? Does it mean they will be left behind, or would the ministry come in as they did previously to fund us so that we are on the same standards as most of the regional councils? The last one on the executive director's representation, ED, maybe just touching. I know they might have different challenges here and there, but when we started with the process of decentralization, representation of EDs was quite very good. I recall when I was a director of decentralization, traveling with the that time permanent secretary of education to various regional councils to convince them in terms of decentralization. We are seeing a lack of participation from the ED level themselves. Is that not having an impact on decentralization? What commitments are the EDs making? If it's improved service delivery, we would also like to see them, other than the Deputy Auditor General who has always been with us. Yeah, because even now we want to see from the line ministry decentralizing also their compliance in terms of audits. They are the ones, maybe we are receiving certain things from them. That's why we are also not performing. So these are issues, but ED, please do respond. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much and for all the interventions. I will attempt to address as many of the issues as possible, also taking into account that it's been a long day. Now, I want to start off. When I listen to all the interventions, on the one hand, we listen very, very optimistic. Regional councils are saying, we are ready for more functions to be decentralized. That's one. And it even goes further to say, we are ready even to go to the devolution phase. Yeah? That's one side. But then another reality again is also coming out, both from the regional councils, as well as from the decentralizing line ministries, where we are talking about a few teething issues that we still need to address. Okay? So I want us to put all these things together so that when we are going to take a position as to whether we are going to run a triathlon or we will start off first with the 200 meters, then we are together. Right? And all this, to me, just highlights the rationale and the vision that was there at the time when we were coming up with the policy and the laws. Now, what are the fundamentals of our policy on decentralization? It has a phased approach. And that phased approach is aimed at ensuring that when we take that step, it is all systems go. That we have tried something and we have seen what is working and what we need to perfect. So that phase approach is very important, and it has, I think, and I want, and I'm making this point so that we appreciate to say we are not yet there. But it does not, and it should not take away to say we have made progress. I really want us to really give us the credit that as a government, as decentralizing line ministries, as regional councils, you are doing something. It's not as if we are not doing anything. If you look at the functions that have been decentralized, one, we have regional councils. I think Ochadonjopa is one of them. You know, the functions of the Ministry of Information and Technology Communication, the audio, visual, and print. You are able to inform the community. Some of you have even local radio stations where you are engaging and informing the citizenry on what is happening. That, I think, is something that we cannot you know, look very lightly to it. You look at the issue of gender, the grants, you know, to the most vulnerable. These are functions that are perfectly being done, I believe, even though with maybe, you know, depends from region to region, you know, we are providing these services, we have brought these services very close to our people. The issue of rural water, rural water supply. Again, those are issues. So as much as we are also taking recognition to say we wanted to be at, and the good thing about our country really, and this is something that quite often, and I remember the late president always says, to say sometimes, and as much as I've always been telling my staff members that if you want to have a fair comparison about yourself being a very healthy person, don't go to somebody who is sick in the hospital and you measure yourself with that. Measure yourself also always with the best. But really, one thing with us, and I think it's a good thing, we always want to do the best thing. But but sometimes we don't appreciate. And one of the things, and I'm saying this point because towards the end, I want also to give a bit of way forward on some of the issues as to how we can deal with it. So I really want us to appreciate that we are doing something, and it's not as if, as much as we are highlighting some of these challenges, we are not doing something good and worth recognizing. That is important. Now, so just to point out or to summarize, to say, that's why there is a reason why we have decided that we are going to decentralize, starting with delegation first, and then we monitor. We get a feedback. We learn from the lessons of what we have done correctly, which we need to scale up, and where we need to improve. I think that is coming very, very strong. The other thing is also to say, that's why also in the whole process of decentralization, if you see the process that is in there, it's also there for a purpose. One of them is that we start off by ensuring that in each of the decentralizing line ministry, there's a task force. There's a team of staff members who are dedicated and deliberately and purposefully put there to drive that process. I have taken note, on the intervention that is saying, but there has been some staff turnover, that some of these people, leave those institutions, and that vision, that passion get lost in the process. And I think it's for us to be able then to ensure that that momentum is not lost. Now, while on that point, I want to respond to the issue, and I think I'm happy that the Honorable our minister is here to say, when the issue of discretion, that if there's a change in political leadership or leadership, then you tend to have a different commitment to some of, to decentralization. And I think as a matter of policy, a policy is a policy. Now, we are not only talking about a policy, it even goes further that it's even a law. It's a law. And I think, Honorable Minister, this is an issue where your leadership continue to be very relevant. And I think going forward, perhaps what is the issue which I think has been mentioned here is that we need to get to that level, and this is actually the basis of the review that we have commissioned now on how far we have done since when we started decentralizing, what is working well and what needs to change, and that we should have a provision for consequences. That's why we were talking about to say we want to get to a level where there will be a decentralization implementation action plan with clear timelines, deliverables, and responsibilities. And then also as part of that, the review that we are going to, which is going to be informed by the outcome of that review, would be that we also strongly provide that there should be consequences. And those consequences should be both sides. We should be able, and I think in the morning there was a reference to say where colleagues, and I think during the presentation by the Office of the Auditor General, to say where people are doing what is expected of them and even beyond, they should be recognized. I think if we can build in that consequence mechanism which provides both for reward as well as consequences on the other side of things, that if whatever is agreed is not done, I think we will be able to get somewhere. So I think that is one way that we can deal with the issues. Now, there were issues that were, and as I said, so beside the task forces that are provided for in the various decentralizing line ministries, there's also a whole comprehensive readiness assessment that takes place, which encompasses, as it was indicated by CRO Shilongo, to say we agree on the service specific delivery standards. All these things have to be agreed between the decentralizing line ministry as well as the regional council. I take note of the intervention by CRO Mweti when she says, look, while we should have general principles, but it's also important that when you do and when we undertake these assessments, we should also take region-specific conditions so that then we make sure that even where there's a need for, for certain additional consideration, then they are provided for if that situation on the ground provides for. But what is even more important, I think, which is cutting across, is the issue of dialogue and communication. I want to comment, even though my colleague is not here, and maybe that will also lead me to respond on the presence of my fellow EDs here. But I want to comment in particular the ED for MICT. He has really been very, very frequently in touch with the CROs. I think in a year, he meets with the CROs at least 4 times, one per quarter. And I think we should give credit where it is due. And through that engagement, which I have really made time, and one of them, just to ensure that the accounting officers themselves, and I appreciate really where you're coming from, as accounting officers at the regional level, you want to be able to engage with your fellow accounting officers at the center, so that when you talk about an issue and you agree, it's all system go. You don't have somebody who necessarily have to still go and consult. And maybe also in the communication, I'm not saying, I know these are very able people and they can communicate messages as given, but there's a possibility that in the interpretation or communication of a certain message, some value or some aspects may be lost, the essence of it and the importance and the impact thereof. Now, one of the attempts that has been done there is that the Secretary to Cabinet himself, and at I think not more than one of the meetings of the ED, we have had this item as a standing item on the meetings of EDs to emphasize that we need to ensure that it's all we have, and we talk and we live and practice this whole of government approach by making sure that the most important structures of government that are closest to the people are actually working with us EDs at the central level. And that's why you'll see last year we have one of those retreats which took place here in this beautiful town of Swakopmund, chaired by the Secretary to Cabinet. And we have agreed that that will become an annual, if not a biannual event, to ensure that these issues that we are discussing here and much more, because this event is only discussing decentralization. But then there are also other functions or other issues that we want to make sure that they continue to dominate those engagements. So I want to assure the CROs that my colleagues, and when I was sitting there, I also got a link which was sent to the ED's platform by the ED of MICT again, because this event is being live streamed by NBC, and therefore is being seen, but he captured it and then again shared it. That is how much interest, and seriously we take this communication. But I will again take that message back to my colleagues that it's important that we continue to make ourselves present. We've taken note of the apologies from some of the EDs. Now, so if we look at the issue, so I've responded on the issue of policy and law, really, that I think it should not be a discretionary issue. The ministry, and I'm happy my colleague from Ministry of Gender Equality, Poverty Eradication and Social Welfare has indicated, really, that's one of the challenges which has come to our attention. And the ministry has actually reached out to us to say they would like us to go and address the leadership of that ministry and the staff members. And we are always willing, whenever we are asked as the coordinating ministry to come in and to just provide information and continue to emphasize the importance of decentralization for all of us. Because at the end of the day, as we said, it's not for us as people occupying public offices, but it's for the citizen. And the regional councils are saying that they are ready to make sure that those services reach the people for which they are meant. Now, the issue of, again, on the corresponding resources, I think we have always, this is one of those areas that we have agreed, both as decentralizing line ministries and also regional council, to say decentralization is not meant to pass on to a problem. We want to make sure that these functions, when they are decentralized, when they are decentralized, we are going to have the required impact or the intended impact. And that's why in some of the cases, you are likely to see, maybe a possible rethinking of an approach where some of these decisions, and one of the issues that has also impacted on the pace of decentralization in some of the sector areas is also the changes and the separation of certain components of certain ministries. I know, for instance, the Ministry of Education, when sports was with basic education, we had some traction. And then when it was moved to the new ministry, we had to restart. So these are some of the changes. But again, these are things that as long as the commitment is there, we should be able again to restart and move forward. But I'm raising this issue so that we don't leave this forum, losing heart that we are making slow progress. I think we are moving, and we just need to address the teething problem. Now, the other issue, Madam Moderator and the participants, is really the issue of capacity. And Director Sika Wongo, when he was presenting in the morning, he brushed over it in the sense that, which is the issue of capacity at the level of the regional councils. Because as much as, we appreciate and admire your optimism to say you are ready to take on more functions, but we are also cognizant of the capacity that you have. And I think we need to address, let's be realistic to some of these things, in the sense that I know there's a blueprint structure for regional councils, which you have made a lot of input in. You have made suggestions to say, central government, we are ready to, to move with even, greater speed, but we need you to capacitate us to be more effective. And that is really the intention. That blueprint structure provides for additional capacity so that when more functions are decentralized, you are indeed in a position to be able to hit the ground running. Otherwise, you will take on more functions, but then with less capacity. And at the end of the day, you crumble. You crumble. And I think we just need to recognize, to say, maybe it's not so much a bad issue that at some point the pace picks up, and then when you encounter certain challenges, then you take a stock, you take stock of what you need to change. Before then you can then gear up. So, and I think one of the commitments that I want to make on behalf of my minister is that the issue of the blueprint structure, I was just discussing with my minister there, is that we need to push it. My minister has made a commitment that he's going to look at it himself again, and he wants that issue to be able to move and leave his office, and then for it to move to the other offices, so that we make sure, to the extent possible, and where resource allows, so that then the additional capacity is also provided, so that when we expect more to be done by the regional councils, indeed we also have done our own responsibility of also facilitating the capacitation of regional councils. The issue of the policies and the legal challenges and what needs to be done, I think there was a question as to where are we with the disharmony between the Public Service Act of 1980 and the regional councils, the Regional Council of 1992. That issue we are addressing through the amendment bill of the Regional Council, which we have already informed you about, to say that bill is already at the level of the Cabinet Committee on Legislation. It went through a lot of consultations with all of you and even your political principals last year, and we are at that stage. So we believe that has to be done. As you would all recall, there was one time when we were a bit holding back to move with the amendment of the Regional Councils Act. And a large focus of that amendment of that law is on the HR aspects, exactly to ensure that there is harmony between what is happening and how we manage the issues of HR in regional councils, as it is happening also in the rest of the public service. And we were a bit almost holding back to move with the amendment of the regional council, because there was also, I think there was a first move on the side of the office of the Prime Minister to try to amend the Public Service Act of 1995, and we wanted to make sure that we don't refer to the wrong law when we are cross-referencing. But then when we saw that, I think there is still a bit of work to be done on that side, we decided, to move the way we have done. And we believe, if there's any changes that comes with the amendment of the 1995 Public Service Act, we will easily, I think we can make sure that, that provision there that speaks to the regional council then are still harmonized. But we wanted to still move so that then at least we address. So the Regional Councils Act, we have moved. Again, on the issue of the re-engineering, that one again is, it will largely be informed by the review which we have already shared with you, to say we have commissioned that review of the whole decentralization process since the beginning, since inception. And the outcome of the findings there, we believe, are the ones that will point us to those specific areas where reform or re-engineering will be required. So I think if we move that way, it will be the best pragmatic. Now, the issues of one thing, I'm sure you, was it last month, when the president launched the report, the Namibia report for the Africa peer review. I don't know how many of you have read that report. And it's important that you read that report, because one of the key findings that is contained in that report is actually speaking to the issues that we are talking about today. That when the citizens and the regional, the subnational governments were consulted on the effectiveness, we say we have policies, we have laws. But the question is, how effective are the principles, the aspirations that are contained in the policies implemented on the ground? And that, that study has found that there is a big gap which we need to bridge. And I think that simply makes our discussion during this forum very, very timely and important, that we take note of also the findings there, which basically reinforces and validates exactly the issues of the need for us to reform and to speed up the process of ensuring that the systems that we have in place are really responsive and responding timely and effectively and efficiently to the needs of our people on the ground. So the issue of dialogue and communication is really coming out very strongly. That I want to encourage the other line ministries. The challenge that I've seen is really to say, is the issue and the possibility or risk of fatigue. I have been interacting, and I continue to interact, and I'm listening to what my fellow accounting officers at the Regional Council are saying. Everything, if a ministry or a minister has to go to a regional council, the regional council is the one that has to run. You are called to that meeting, and you spend time and the money, most of which you have not budgeted for, but it's a national call, okay? And this is now one of the issues that we need to find a way to say, how do we do it? I've referred to the to MICT, that they meet with regional councils quarterly. It's a good thing, but that is just one ministry. Now, if you have to have the same dialogue on each of the other functions with the other ministries, how many times are you going to speak? Your time, our time here, has a huge opportunity cost. Very huge opportunity cost. You see, and these are the things that we need to balance. So without any question, dialogue is important, but I think we need to find what is the most effective way for us to continue having that dialogue between the center and the subnational governments. So that is one. Then I think really to conclude, is simply for me, as the accounting officer of the line ministry, I believe there are areas where we have low-hanging fruits. And I want us to focus on those ones. It's not, in most cases, they are not so much generalized. But when it comes to just the issue of what the Office of the Auditor General has shared with us, there is so much that is happening in individual regional councils. Okay, different capacities, different leaderships, but most of what we do there get watered down by outcomes such as disclaimers or adverse images to say we are not accountable. The decentralizing line ministries, when they were responding to the issues of saying, but you know, we need more function, they are saying, and some of them were very diplomatic when I was listening to them. They're saying, but accountability. You know? So it's a whole balance to say where there are responsibilities, there is also obligations. And we need to balance that on both on the side of the decentralizing line ministries to say they must make a conscious commitment to say when we have that we have a function to be decentralized, they must also recognize to say for that function to be performed effectively, there must be corresponding resources and capacity. On the other side, on the receiving side, we also recognize to say, are we truly ready to effectively execute? If we are not, let's also point out those areas that we need to jack up ourselves. And I think with that unit of purpose and communication between the two levels, I think the citizens of this country should really look forward with optimism to say there's a government and there's a public service which is fit for purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Daniel, for that comprehensive coverage and responding to some of the issues and touching on some of the issues which were gaps in terms of what was presented. Thank you very much. I would like at this point in time to sincerely thank all our panelists for a wonderful job done in terms of presentations. Really appreciated. Let's continue the dialogue and engagement. I believe the minute takers have taken note of the key issues which have been raised and the commitment made through these presentations. Can we give all the panelists a hand? Thank you. At this point in time, allow me to invite our Honorable Minister of Urban and Rural Development, Honorable Tony, just to touch, when we have leadership among us, let's utilize this opportunity for them to come and speak to us. Honorable Minister, thank you.
Stretch your legs. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. It's not a statement again. Madam, the moderator just felt that at least I should also say something, but I was not prepared. But now when she asked me, I said, okay, well, I'm good. Yeah, Honorable Governor, Chairperson, thank you very much for coming here to join us and then to listen what your people are saying in terms of the decentralization. I think it's good that you are here. Madam Moderator, you did it very well. Why are we not giving her good hands? Thank you. I'm not giving vote of thanks, eh? Please, yeah. But when you start talking like this, you have to thank also other people on what they are doing. Panelists, all of you, thank you very much for what you have shared with us. Very, very, very important. Edie, specifically, you covered most things that I wanted to say. but maybe I'll just put emphasis on some of them. Dear participants, I think what all of us are recognizing here is that there is this program by our government. And this program is a program on decentralization of functions to the regions. That is a very, very, very big program. And that program is to empower all of us, isn't it? And some of you have said, yes, we are ready to be empowered. But we are to be empowered through this process within the provision of unitary state, isn't it? We are, these functions are delegated to you within that provision of a unitary state, not for you to be federal. And some of you have mentioned that some of the functions are going very slow to be decentralized. I have picked up that, some of the functions. And the other thing that I have picked up, Madam Weti, you said, sometimes the decentralizing ministries, they are just sending everything to you. Yet, you are not ready here and there. Maybe one of the things is when staff are sent to you, you don't have enough accommodation in terms of office accommodation. Now you have to run up and down here and there. But I want to ask a question. Listen very carefully here. Let's say you are well equipped. You have enough office accommodation. You have all the facilities. The staff are seconded to you. Now we have turned the side of the coin. Now, at the end of the year, or end of 5 years term, when we assess you, the reporting might be starting with one of the auditing. It's just a qualified for the period of 5 years. I have just mentioned one. There are many components that I did not mention, meaning that you are not performing. What do you expect the decentralizing ministry to do? Is my question clear? What do you expect Minister of Agriculture or Education or whatever? They have decentralized those functions to you. They have equipped you with everything. And I gave an example of one component just to assess you, more especially on when it comes to the issue of auditing. That period of 5 years, 0. Qualified, but okay, you are terming qualified as a good report. That is what you are terming. But okay, it's in a different form now. Qualified. Adverse. What do you expect Minister of Education, just an example, to do? Tell me, what do you expect? Can you say it loud? Meme Regina, please, say it loud. Somebody was talking it here nicely. What do you expect? Which one? Withdraw, eh? Withdraw. You are quiet, you don't want to say it loud. Because that functions were delegated to you. The person who delegated, who gave you that, has the right to pull out. Isn't it? No. What is your argument? I don't want to put you on the spot. They can't hear you. Come here. I'm sorry, I respect you highly. I'm sorry that I said come here like a child. No, it's not what I want. Let's be open.
I'm just wondering.
Look at them.
No, I want to look at you.
You want to look at me?
Yes. I'm just wondering, now, say for instance, Master Peka Semba, okay, we withdraw functions from him. Ne? Okay, the functions came. But now what about the financial issues and the IT issue? You know, the IFMS is there in the region, especially at education. We have that IFMS to process the salary of the staff, the whole staff. Just imagine of Ohangwena with that 6,000 people, Omusati with that 5,000 people. Now we must again withdraw all those, the system. And now later, what will we do with those equipment?
Wants to fight me? I don't know.
And now what will we do with those equipments?
Because I'm short.
No, just imagine. So my argument is now the reverse and again come back and again how? We must just go forward. We must just rectify. We must just do it right. That's, yeah. How?
So, do you agree with her? Well, you want to say something? You are going for dinner now, eh? Yeah, let's exercise. Because you are saying, no, minister is just doing this. No. You want to say something? Yes, you want to tell them? Oh, sorry.
Honorable Minister and everyone here, as much as the function or the intention of delegating this function is to bring services closer to these people. Now when we are withdrawing it, are we saying the population should also follow where this service is going?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to see how we are dealing. Because I'm saying you are well equipped. Well equipped financially, whatever, you are well equipped. But you are just quiet. I wanted to hear something. You know, when I was in one ministry, I will not mention that ministry. When I was in one ministry, you know, some staff members who are in the ministries supposed to be now transferred to the regions. But maybe this one is for the EDs. You are representing EDs? Yeah, it's good. Prime Minister, public service, I mean. Where is Madame Pierre Mess? Oh, you are there. All right. I was in one ministry, and you know, when this process started of decentralizing, some staff members in the ministries, some of them at the headquarters, they were told, no, your duty station is Zambezi region. Said, no, I will not go there. How do we deal with that? Maybe that one, that is not yours. You are not able to answer that one. Maybe you. Edie, do you understand that question? Yeah? Public service. You attempt, eh? Can they refuse to go to their duty station? Maybe if you also want to intervene, you can. I don't know. I said if you want to intervene, only if.
No, I don't know if someone is refusing. You are appointed to perform those particular functions, because nothing will change. You are already at the regional level, and you are refusing. I don't know what you want to do, but in terms of the law, you cannot refuse. provided that you were consulted. You were just informed. Whether you give your consent or not, the process should go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they will be told you should just go. Whether you have well established yourself in Windhoek, for example.
Because you are still a staff member of that particular ministry.
Of that particular
Devolution have not taken place.
Okay.
Even maybe coming back to your earlier question you asked, she asked.
Okay.
Even when you are going to withdraw, the resources at the regional level belong to that particular ministry. So it's not yet handed over permanently to the ministry. So there is nothing that you will lose because you will just withdraw and then you continue. Community will not suffer.
Okay.
So
thank you very much. Now,
we'll have a ballot.
Oh, you want to say something on this specific? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, while the colleague also is coming in,
yeah,
on the issue of the withdrawal,
yeah,
I think it has to be clear, and it's supposed to be a simple way. Look, it is, what is being delegated is the function, most importantly, and the decision-making powers. So the issue is that the function has to be performed. So what will change, okay, in case of non-performance is simply the oversight and the responsibilities of performing that function. But the function has to continue. The people have to get the services uninterrupted. The only change is to say, instead of that service being delivered by Ngidinwa, it's now being performed by, she's taking it back to say, I am performing that function myself. Honorable Minister, you've just done that with respect to Karasberg. Okay, you say, the law says.
Don't laugh.
The law says.
Yeah, you said you want to say something. When you stretch your legs, you should also stretch your thinking. Isn't it? Yeah. To make it live.
I'm just interested also to learn or hear more on the question of the Honorable, where he asked it, if somebody doesn't want to go to the duty station where she is supposed to, where she's told to go, what happens? Because we have experienced such kind of things now that when we're in the regions for the NDP6, where you go, you'll find some buildings there, but the community will tell you this building is empty maybe since last year or a year back because people, they don't want to come and work here. So in that case, what happens? I'm interested to learn more because we did not get that response. Actually, I'm Havani from National Planning Commission. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why you are saying maybe ED is supposed to be here. They should supposed to come and support us so that we can have some answers to some of those questions. Yeah, I think ED will encourage other fellow EDs next time so that they can also come and join us. Of course, I'm not saying why they are not here because maybe they are busy with other things. You want to say something on that? Yeah, I'll give you Yeah, please advise me because maybe it's your dinner time. All right. Idi, can you wait first? Idi, can you wait first? There's a lady there. Maybe, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'm Aune Mujanima, Acting Executive, Deputy Executive
Please
Director.
listen, eh? Yeah, okay, proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. My name is Aune Mujanima. I'm the Acting Deputy Executive Director, Ministry of Labor, Industrial Relation and Employment Creation. I just wanted to also submit my input on the question of Honorable Minister if anyone, it's then refusing to go to a particular duty station. What I really want to raise is that in the fraternity of labor relations, every process is set out with really systematic steps that needs to be followed when implementing either a program or a project. That means decentralization itself have a process that entails thorough consultation. And I remember when I was in the afternoon of my age, I was working for the Ministry of Education. I'm currently on the evening of my age. So at that moment, I was in the region as a very assistant personnel officer. And that was the time the consultation in the Ministry of Education then was going on. We were thoroughly consulted, and some of us were supposed either to move from Ondangwa to Utapi, from Ondangwa to Enana, and from Ondangwa to then Oshikoto, then later Umfia. So consultation is thoroughly made, and that is a step of labor relations. And if those steps that follows natures of consultation in labor relations processes are correctly and thoroughly done as it's supposed to be done, and at the end one feels still that they need to refuse, every legislations have processes of what needs to be done when a process is followed and a person is still adamant. As ED have said, is that what is decentralized or seconded is a function. And the person that fall in a position that deals with that function, if thoroughly consulted, needs to understand that and psychologically prepared to move with the function to where it should go. The problem that come in sometimes is that we do not want, or maybe to take steps that are placed there when we know we have exhausted the processes. And they are legally there, and processes in HR are there that needs to be taken by the one that is deliberately refusing, considering that processes are thoroughly followed. So I really wanted to submit that from the labor perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. There was also just a comment that, sometimes like now, this year is election. No, just listen. Don't just go to election, maybe. You think somebody's talking about a political party. No. Somebody was just making a comment that, yeah, this year is election. 2021 government is forming a new government. After 5 years, isn't it? And then maybe some ministers are appointed to come in a ministry. And then they said, no. This process of decentralization, hold on. Can really a minister do that? I heard something like that. They've done it. Is that true? She's looking at me, said yes. Okay. If they have done it, maybe next time they will not do it. Next time. Let's just take the minister through. Take him through. A minister is just a person like you. It's only because of that title. Just take him or her through, and you make him or her understand. But if you did not make that person understand, you have some question marks, isn't it? Yeah, but he or she cannot hold the process. He cannot. So I just wanted to touch on that one. So those were my questions. I just wanted to hear from you. You responded yourself. I did not respond. My sister here, she wanted to fight me, but I'm very strong also. Idi, what do you wanted to say? Thank you very much. I'm done.
Yeah, Honorable Minister, I don't want to add really much after you've spoken. Really, thank you for the wisdom, and especially on the issue of, the issue of political leadership, if there's any change, and whether a policy provision or legal provision can be discretionarily changed. And I think that assurance is very important to us. Thank you very much. I'm also glad that my sister, Mujanime, has already responded, because that's exactly what I wanted to point out, Honorable Minister. In terms of the Public Service Act, and then also in terms of the Labor Act, the procedures are very clear. There are systems that you start, the transfer, movement, even promotion of staff and appointments, it's all clearly laid out, in terms of the law, as well as the public service staff rules. So all these procedures are laid out now. As part of the decentralization, there's also a component for intensive consultation. Most of the handing over of functions that have already been gazetted is actually taking a bit of time at that stage of consultations. We have a tripartite dialogue or consultation arrangement in this country, which also includes the labor movements, the recognized trade unions. And they are part of that process of consultation, just to make sure that the issues of fairness that is provided for and consultation as provided for, tripartite consultation as provided for in the Labor Act is also followed. But everything has a limit. And those laws, all of them, and as Ms. Mujanima has also indicated, even the Public Service Act, there is a process of consultation, but you consult up to a certain point. When you have exhausted all the procedures of administrative justice, as it is called, then a point comes when I think the other level of enforcement has to come in. And our laws, especially the Public Service Act and the Labor Act, really have very clear guidelines in terms of how we deal with those situations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have come to the end of this session and the end of today's proceedings. We start at the correct time tomorrow. We should all be on time. We are expected to be here by 8:30. At 8 actually for registration, and 8:30 we actually start. So thank you very much. Let's give ourselves a big hand for reaching this time. Thank you. I need to whisper something to the Honorable Minister. Thank you.